Hey guys, and welcome back to Walking with Wisdom for our fifth session of our 6-week series, The Foundations of Wisdom. I'm still your host, Tommy Willingham, and I am so glad that you're here today. Because today I want to look at how we can better walk with discernment. So if wisdom, as we've been talking about it, is seeing the world as God sees it and having the courage to live that way. And if humility, that we talked about in our last session, is learning to see ourselves more clearly, then discernment is learning to put those two together in order to make more wise choices in our lives. Discernment, biblical discernment, is wisdom applied to real life, real decisions, the real complexities that most of us have every day in our lives. Because here's the truth, guys. Life is rarely simple, is it? Most of the choices we make on any given day aren't between good and evil, black and white, but they're between good and better, in that gray that's in between. They're about true and almost true, wise or merely convenient. Just get it done and move on to the next one on the list on any given day. Discernment allows us the ability to slow things down, to listen more deeply, and notice what really matters the most. Proverbs 14:15 says, the simple believes everything, but the prudent gives thoughts to his steps. The simple person simply absorbs information. The discerning person examines information. Guys, we live in a world full of information and full of noise. Everyone has an opinion. Everybody has a platform. Everything wants your attention. The news, social media, podcasts, friends, experts, the ads, the algorithm. Guys, we are swimming in voices pounding at us all day long. But sometimes the wisdom is hard to hear because wisdom doesn't shout. It more often whispers. Discernment gives us that space to hear the whisper of God beneath the roar of the world. Now, understand, I'm not saying that discernment is being suspicious about everything going on all the time. It's not cynicism. It's not conspiracy theories about any and everything. Biblical discernment. It's not about being critical and negative all the time, but it's about having a spiritual attentiveness into what God is doing in the midst of all of this other stuff swirling around. It's learning to notice what most people rush past. It's learning to sense what's truly good and not what's just the loudest or maybe the most popular at the time. Discernment, biblical discernment, teaches us to ask better questions before we make those bigger choices. And discernment even changes the questions that we ask. And now we're not asking questions like, is this allowed? But is this wise? Not, can I do this? But should I do this? Not, will this fulfill me right now? But will this shape me to live well in God's will later? See, discernment grows when we slow things down. Most poor decisions men make aren't necessarily evil decisions. They're rushed decisions. They're emotional decisions that we often make, lonely decisions, tired decisions. What discernment does is it allows us to take that pause, to breathe, pray, to wait before we speak, before we click, before we commit, before we react. James 1 verse 5 tells us, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God. The discernment that comes through wisdom is not something that in some way we manufacture. It's an absolute gift that God readily wants to offer for us to receive in order that we might make better decisions and choices in our lives. Now, guys, here's a hard truth. If you really want to gauge how well you're discerning right now, just look at the fruit of your decisions. I mean, we've all heard the words of Jesus when he says, you'll know them by their what? You'll know them by their fruit. Jesus doesn't say you'll know them by their good intentions. You'll know them by their proper language. You'll know them by their promises, but you'll know them by their fruit. So ask yourself this before making a hasty decision. Does this path produce fruit of God's Spirit? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control? Or does it provoke anxiety, maybe even pride or division and maybe confusion in our lives or the lives of those around us? Ask yourself, does this relationship draw me closer to God or is it slowly pulling me away? Does that habit strengthen my soul or is it really quietly numbing it down? You see, discernment isn't about just simply being smarter. It's about being honest. It's about being honest first most with ourselves. It's about being honest about what shapes us, honest about what weakens us, honest about what draws us closer to God, and brutally honest about what might be pushing us away from our relationship with God. And brothers, that kind of honesty takes courage. It takes courage to look past the immediate and into the long-term effect of our choices and decisions that we're making today. So why is something seemingly so simple so difficult? Because oftentimes discernment means saying no to things that aren't necessarily wrong, but they just aren't right for you, or at least not right now. It means choosing depth over superficial gratification. It means choosing faithfulness over popularity. The quiet, consistent work of God over the loud, immediate rewards of the world. So, guys, as we look at this discernment in our lives, I want you to this week do a discernment pause. Before any significant decision, stop and pray. Lord, what really is wise here? And when possible, wait 24 hours before you make that choice. That lets the emotions settle a bit. It gives space for God's Spirit that may want to whisper into your soul. It lets those things that maybe you just couldn't see because you were wrapped up in the middle of it, it lets the truth rise to the surface and be seen more clearly. Because here's another truth, guys. Wisdom rarely rushes, but wisdom always guides when we give it time. So this week, ask yourself truthfully, where is it I might be being pressured to decide quickly rather than wisely? And what voices am I allowing to shape my choices and decisions the most? Men, as you walk in God's wisdom, walk gently, keep close to God, and learn to choose wisely. Hey, if you know another man or maybe other men that you think might benefit from these sessions, go ahead and invite them. It's not too late for them to join us. They can catch up with the past sessions. They're on whatever forum or platform that you're utilizing. You can point them toward that and they can catch up very quickly. And remember to look over these questions to ponder and these action steps that are in the link below. Put those as a part of your devotional life this week and begin to practice and ponder those things. So we're going to get together again at 5 a.m. next Monday morning. The number 6 session, the final session of this series is going to drop. And I'll see you on the next one. Until then, guys, walk wisely.